Hi, I'm Randy Reid, editor of the Edison Report and an NLB board member. We are broadcasting from the studio of one of the NLB sponsors, the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers in Washington, D.C. We are here for the 12th Annual Lighting Forum. I am joined by Peter Brown, Electrical Transitions LLC, and Mark Lean, IES and owner of Augmented Illumination. The name of this session is AI Implications for the Lighting Industry. Gentlemen, welcome.
Thank you, Randy.
Randy,
Good
nice
to
to
be
see you
here.
again.
Well, good to sit with both of you. And the first thing I want to bring up is the Oxford Press 2025 word of the year is brain rot.
Yes.
What does that mean in terms of AI?
You mind, Peter? I'll take
No,
this
go
one.
right ahead.
All right. So in their announcement, they cited specifically short-form videos as a source of brain rot. And the reason they did that is because these studies are just starting to roll in now. We've had generative AI for a little over a decade, but it's taken a while for the addictive algorithms to be refined to the point that they are, and for people to have an awareness of what's going on. So there were 71 studies not on brain rot, but on the short form videos and how it affects our thinking. And it appears to be reshaping our brains. And the 71 studies were reviewed in the American Psychological Association's journal in September. They went through all 71 of these things. And what they came up with was the common threads were that people had cognitive disabilities after watching. Heavy users is what they said. Okay. I don't know exactly what that means, because once you start doom scrolling, you're a heavy user, right? But they had people with cognitive disabilities, anxiety, increased anxiety, loneliness, and depression.
Wow.
Yeah, wow. Now that's just their study. MIT did a study with 54 subjects. And of the 54 subjects, what they did is they broke them into 3 groups, and they told them over a period of time to write several SAT-type essays. They told the first group to only use ChatGPT as their resource. They told the second group that they could use Google search, nothing else. Which is a whole lot different, right, than getting the answer directly. You've got to start looking for it and working. And then the last group had no access to resources at all. You had to use whatever you knew. And what they found is that the first group can constantly, every time, underperformed. The ChatGPT group underperformed all of the others, and the striking part was that they got lazier. So by the time that they got to the last essays, most of these ChatGPT users were cutting and pasting. The other people were thinking, and of what they derived from this is that AI affects our critical thinking skills, hence the term brain rot.
It's amazing how many people have lost their sense of direction because they use GPS.
Oh,
Okay.
that's the skill issue.
So, Pete, let's just discuss that. I'm retired military, land navigation. I excelled. I could find my way better than my peers everywhere. Now I'm totally lost without GPS. So I 100% understand that.
And it's
And
the
I
same
hope that
parallel.
this AI doesn't do the same thing to my brain, or I'm in real trouble.
It depends how you use AI as to whether it's going to do this to your brain or not. But it's the same parallel of what I was referring to earlier, right? This critical thinking skills are being destroyed, and our skills are atrophying because of this tool. And we're just starting to learn a lot of the negative stuff now. Initially, there was a tremendous amount of promises about what AI could achieve, right? But we saw that with computers too. And you may recall this, Randy, when computers were first coming out. People said we were going to work 1 day a week, right? And computers were going to do everything, right? And we kind of started AI with the same approach, but now we're starting to see that it isn't all good. And there's a lot of it that really is going to be problematic. And the lack of critical thinking skills and our other skills like GPS, that's going to make us less viable. And the problem is that AI is actually getting smarter while we're getting dumber.
Yeah, it's fascinating to see how much you use it as a tool, but don't expect it to do the things that we can do, which is imagination, insights, discernment, all those kind of things that you want to ask it to get information for you, as opposed to letting it just, because you'll notice when you ask it something, it immediately prompts you, hey, you want to do this, and you want to do this, and you want to do this. And it's trying to get you on that path where you're relying on its suggestions versus stopping and let me think about this for a while. Oh, okay.
That's true. That's true. And we're also at a pivotal point right now, because in the early 1900s, information was doubling every 100 years. By 1945, the estimates are it was doubling every 25 years, because television had been around, broadcasting with some frequency since the 30s, and radio was really popular, media was exploding, and so data was increasing. I read an article last week, and I have not had a chance to validate this yet, but the author said that right now information is just doubling every 8 hours.
Holy cow.
I know. So even if that's off by a factor of 3, and it's doubling every day, it's more than we can handle. It's a fire hose of information, and we're not capable of processing it. And that is underlying all of this. I mean, our brains evolved to eat berries in a cave and not to handle this fire hose of information. We just can't process it all.
It just requires more and more discipline to focus on what your core activity is and get rid of the noise, because otherwise the bandwidth is so wide, but it's so shallow that you never get into the nitty-gritty of it.
It's a great tool, like you said, for doing tasks and things, but if you start delegating the critical thinking skills to it, then you're going to find that your skills have atrophied.
Well, let's talk about these tools. What role is AI playing right now for lighting manufacturers? How are they using it?
Multiple ways, and there's a tremendous overlap in how we use it personally now and at work. I mean, ChatGPT is a great example, right? We use that personally and we use it at work, right? Because it's a great tool for many things. Not everything, but many things, if you can validate and trust it. I know lighting design is done by manufacturers with AI for the basic designs. I mean, they aren't that difficult, and the AI can actually perform those significantly faster. So I've talked to people at some of the major companies that have designers on staff, and I'm talking manufacturers here, and they're using it. Now, they're not necessarily telling people they're using it,
right?
But that's pretty typical. In fact, there was a Harry Enton, the statistician for chief data analyst, I guess, for CNN. He had a piece recently that showed that 36% of the people in the United States say that they use AI, but actually 96% do.
Really?
Because people aren't telling you that they're relying on AI.
Okay.
But manufacturers, they're using it in many of the same ways that we are. So I think, in fact, well, it's easy to get negative. You know that, don't you, Peter?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think that we're starting to see a lot of overlap in how we utilize these tools.
Well, we hear they're using it in production.
Yeah.
They're using it in product design.
Mm-hmm.
We also, of course, they've been using it in marketing for a couple of years.
Marketing's strong. That's still the strongest.
And the problem with that is the large companies now have fewer people working in marketing, so those entry-level marketing positions are being done by AI. So where are the companies going to get their marketing professionals coming up?
So one of the fascinating things is if you look at where AI gets its information from, the majority of it's through social media platforms.
I didn't know that.
And so on. And what you have to do if you're involved in, designing something that's critical and whatever, you've got to tell it exactly the sources you want it to look up to get the information for you. You just have to be extremely specific in what you ask for. Otherwise, you really don't know what the sources are that you're getting the information from.
You do. You got to ask for sources. Yep.
What is the impact of AI on manufacturers' reps?
design again. A lot of them do audits and they do basic lighting design and layouts because they can control the job then as opposed to farming it out to the manufacturer to do. So design is certainly one of them. But again, it's capable of doing so many things that really overlap, I think, our personal and business life.
Yeah, so just as an exercise, said to AI, okay, let's have a 300,000 square foot building. Let's do a lighting layout. Let's look at the energy, run it, everything.
Codes.
And how long did it take you to do that before AI came along? And it was 6 to 8 hours. You're going to get a designer, you're going to have an energy person involved, you're going to have an MEP engineer maybe involved, whatever it is. 6 to 8 hours. With ChatGPT-4, 2 years ago, give or take, what it basically said was manually, the way we've done it for decades, it was 6 to 8 hours. And it was about 90%, 95% accurate. When one of the first versions of ChatGPT came along, it reduced that time to 25 minutes, but people were still involved. They're looking up spec sheets, codes, and whatever, and assembling it, and it's putting it all together, but there's people making sure it's right and whatever. The agentic AI, which is kind of the next level that's coming this year, next year, year after, it's hard to quantify it exactly, it's potentially going to be able to do it completely without any human activity if it's available as far as all the information that you typically would use, and it knocks it down to less than a minute. I talked to a PE at a large design firm and said, we're trying this. We can't get all of it exactly the way we want it based on the software we're currently using in-house. So it's a work in progress as far as how much they can get, but it's getting there. So that kind of productivity gain is crazy.
Yeah, it is. And that the whole agentic AI, at MIT last month, they were talking about how an entry-level position, and this would apply to manufacturers and you know, any type of rep or design firm. The entry-level position will be to train an agent on what they need to do, as opposed to doing it yourself.
Yeah.
So let's go to that example, training an agent. Do you foresee a time when a manufacturer tells or recommends to their rep, this is the lighting agent that we use, and provide them that lighting agent so they can collaborate on it? And then could that even go to the distributors and to the lighting designers?
It's being dangled out like a carrot right now that these agents are going to be able to replace humans that way. But there is some evidence that it's true. Salesforce, this huge multi-billion-dollar conglomerate, they are saying right now that they are using agents. They have over 100 agents. They're using agents that they've designed. They're using agents that are 84% effective on answering all of the questions that come in.
Wow.
Yeah. So now I don't know what people's happiness level is with the bots that they're using, but they must be pretty refined if they're getting 84%
I think
success.
what we're starting to see is the fact that it's going to become so pervasive for innovators and early adopters. And we've talked about this before as far as a book called Crossing the Chasm and who buys what and when and whatever. The more disruptive something is, the more it's focused on innovators, which are 3 to 5% of the population as far as buyers and whatever. And they're going to glob onto this. They're going to make it work. They're going to figure it out. And they're going to have a huge advantage over people that resist it, don't want to do it. Because, again, if you have a whole chain from a manufacturer down to a rep, down to a design firm, down to contractors and so on, it's certainly going to be very productive. And one of the things that we were going to talk about was the speed in which manufacturers will be able to provide quotes back. Because right now, one of the big issues is, and you could probably address that, Mark, a little bit better than I could, as far as just the timeline of a typical quote request to an OEM.
Yeah, this could change the nature of how bids are done. One of the most frustrating things for an electrical distributor, and I've done this, so one of the most frustrating things is that you don't get your pricing on the large jobs until the last minute. And that's so that no one can share it with someone else and find a lower, they come out with a lower price after that and you get into a bidding war. But what AI is going to be capable of doing is going back through all of the recent jobs, seeing what you paid for it, and giving an estimate that that manufacturer could live with, because it's the price they gave you 2 months ago or whatever it may be.
We have always historically struggled with transparency in pricing in the lighting industry, so this can help that. Others will argue that it will be a race to the bottom.
Already at the bottom. I'm trying. It's 1% to 2% on some of these projects for profit margins. Distributors will take it at, and then they'll try to have some change orders and things that might
And overage.
Yeah, overages. But I don't know how it gets a whole lot lower.
I don't know if we had this or not, Randy. I don't know if I got this, but we ran some numbers and said what would the AI have effect on a manufacturer's rep line card?
Yeah.
And let's just say somebody had, before any kind of Excel or any kind of CRM or whatever, you'd have 30, 60 lines. Then along comes some form of automation, as far as not AI, but just general automation. And you could expand your line, you have more information, whatever. AI is going to be able to look at, if somebody is providing all of that information downstream from the manufacturer, they're going to be able to look at everything much more granularly, much faster. And so potentially the lines will decrease in number, but the profit margins will go up on the lines that they still have. So this is all the kind of crazy stuff.
So
that
let's discuss that. The rep could have fewer lines because AI can do a deeper dive to see all the products that these lines have, and they wouldn't have the necessity to go out and get other lines.
They wouldn't have to have 5 lines, they could have 2 or 3 of similar product, let's say.
Because AI can do the deep dive to see all the products that are available.
And it can see where it was sold on a similar job, what kind of response there was, do they have any warranty issues? All those kind of things are going to be available to it based on how you train an agent, AI, to look at it.
Okay, but how? How is AI going to know that a manufacturer had a warranty issue on a job, which they immediately took care of? How does that get into an AI database?
Well, the manufacturer may make it available. I mean, it just depends on how transparent you want to be and how valuable that is to the relationship between the OEM and the rep agency.
And AI is going to be going through all of those corporate emails. It already does. So it's going to have an awareness of a broader scope of what's going on in that company, including those kind of warranty issues, because it's monitoring this stuff constantly and retaining it.
But again, that will be private to that company.
No, nothing is private unless you take yourself offline.
Right.
And there are companies selling large language model computers that will stay offline. And I talked to a rep agent when I was out doing a presentation recently, and he bought one, about $4,000, and they keep it completely offline because anything you put online, AI is going to find it. It's going behind paywalls. It's going behind firewalls. And I've tested some of these models for some of that to see what they were finding in terms of standards that cost money, right? And it can get behind those paywalls and firewalls. And it's searching every bit of data that it can find. And it's accumulating it and assessing it and analyzing it.
So let's just say I'm a manufacturer, and again, I want to go back to the warranty job, and I have a job where we have a warranty issue, and there must be 30 emails going back and forth within my company between the distributor and the contractor, and we're taking care of everything, and everybody is happy. Are you telling me that somebody could go into AI and ask, was there a warranty issue on XYZ job from this manufacturer, and they would be able to find it?
Very likely, because the big tech companies that we have right now, arguably 7 of them, right, they make their revenue on data. So, if you go on Google Docs, for example, or whatever, that's public data now.
Okay, so I talked to a lighting designer who did a project, as a test, and it was all supposed to be in a walled garden. It was supposed to be confidential.
Sure.
And I don't know exactly what he did to make it that way, but he claims one of his fellow employees went home a few days later from their home computer, logged in on their home personal email. They were able to find some of that data that was supposed to be confidential.
Absolutely. If you have anything proprietary, don't put it into your system or online, because again, these companies, they offer us free services. All the Google services, they're great, they're free, right? They aren't free. What they're doing is they're taking our data and they're reselling it.
The company behind ChatGPT, which is called OpenAI, they have an annual developer conference in San Francisco 2 months ago. And Sam Altman's the guy who runs the OpenAI, said, we now have 4 million developers working using our platform to develop apps and APIs and whatever. 4 million. They had 2 million 2 years before that. They've increased by 2 million. Okay. So to your point, as far as who's writing what to access whatever. But the fascinating thing was, he said, we have an internal poll within our company as to when the first person that's a one-person AI company reaches an annual revenue of $1 billion.
Yeah.
One person. So if you've got one person doing that, potentially you could have 10 people that have their own company that's generating 100 million, and maybe 100 people that are generating 10 million. So it's, and they're all gathering information.
Right.
So
What's the impact of AI with lighting designers?
I talked to somebody that has 6 lighting designers, and they don't know what to do because they're done so quick.
Yeah, I've got a colleague, and you'd know him, very well established in our industry and long history. Peter and I. And Peter's
Sure.
been sharing with me some of the work that he's been doing, and he's finding that on complex lighting designs, simple ones are no problem, but complex designs, he's getting accuracy of close to 90%, where he just tweaks it for 10%, looks it over, and of course Peter would have the competence to do that, looks it over to make sure that there aren't any glaring errors, because AI, you can't trust anything that AI does without verifying it, right? But if you can get a 90% accuracy,
But
that's
if
to your
it's
point.
doing it so quick that you've got the time to be able to check it thoroughly.
If you have the competence to check
Correct.
it thoroughly. And that's an issue.
That's the conundrum here, is you've got to have people that have enough knowledge to be able to say and sign off on a lighting design saying this is okay. Yeah, AI did it, but it's still going to pass muster on a bid and whatever.
Well, the other conundrum is revenue for the lighting designers. So now, if what took 6 to 8 hours is going to take 15 seconds, do we look for less revenue to the lighting design community, who historically bills hourly?
Good question.
I've been recommending in the presentations on AI that I've been giving for the last couple of years, I've been recommending that they not try to publicly state that they're using AI. If you're working with a tech company, they expect you are. But if you're working with an individual who is hiring you to do a project and they hear you're using AI, they're going to assume that you're getting it done faster and they shouldn't have to pay as much money. So in many cases, telling people you're using AI is actually counterproductive.
But there are many jobs now that will specify that they must not use AI. Because, for example, a very high-end private residence that a lighting designer is designing, that owner does not want information about his residence out in the world. So the designer will have to sign a document that they will not use AI. Well, if they send an email and they're halfway through the email, AI kind of helps to finish that email. So they are using AI even though they say they're not using AI.
Yeah, see, this is the 3-time ratio between people who say that they're using AI and they just don't realize that they are in many cases. But the stipulation would have to be that you don't use it specifically for the design. But that's going to be tough too, because the software is updating now to have AI integrated into the software that you're using for your lighting design. So how do you extract that?
Government jobs are also requiring, not all, many government jobs are saying no AI on the lighting design.
Because you can't trust it, and it's...
No, because foreign enemies.
Oh.
They don't want anyone to know about this particular building.
For government.
For government.
Overall, there's a lack of trust. But yeah, for government, that makes perfectly good sense. But once again, and I hope there's people in the government smart enough to do this, unless they're isolating their systems, then AI's got the information anyway. It's naive to think otherwise.
Going back to your billing question, was there a billing issue when people went from doing it manually to using AGI 32?
Right. It's a great question.
I don't think there was. And so I would say that you could apply the same to this.
But again, here's a difference, respectfully, if I may. When the lighting industry went to AGI 32 and other software, that end user didn't know. They didn't have a clue how it was being done. The end users know all about AI now. So they know that the hourly workload can be reduced if AI is used. And so what the designers tell me what they're doing is now they're going to give more options. Instead of giving 1 or 2 options, they may give 4 or 5 options. And that will help them to keep their total hours on the job.
Well, maybe that's a business opportunity for AGI 32, saying, "Oh, we'll use AI, but you're getting it from us."
No, I wrote the folks at AGI 32 last year before I was giving a presentation, and I wrote a number of software companies, and I asked them if they were currently using AI or if they had plans to. AGI said, "No, we are not currently using it, and we have no plans to use AI in the future." Now, I told a colleague of mine that, and she said, "Yet."
Yes, exactly.
If they're going to survive. But other software companies are. Dialux, for example, Autodesk and Revit, they've got third-party add-ins, that are AI that integrate and that are approved by those companies. So we are seeing use in a number of programs. Outside the U.S., Helvar uses AI extensively in their control package. It's being integrated now, and it's going to be assimilated by all of them that survive.
Guys, what's this going to look like in 5 years?
What's it going to look like in 5 months?
You can talk about the trajectory of something like a tool like AI. You can talk about the trajectory, but not the velocity, because nobody gets that right. There's just too many variables, right? So 5 years, it's hard to put a finger on it. But there's no doubt, there's some indications, ChatGPT 5 was not the quantum leap that ChatGPT 4 was over 3. So there's indications that things are slowing down a little bit right now. But even if it came to a dead stop and AI didn't get any better, it's already saving us over 40% of our time if we use it effectively. Now, as a general statement, so it's not going anywhere. How much it improves, it certainly will to some degree, but along with the improvements, we're going to get a lot more addictive algorithms.
Ugh.
We're getting them now. I mean, that doom scrolling stuff is pretty tough to break out of.
Peter, closing comment?
2 things. One, it's moving at such a pace, not only as far as just the compute power it has, but it's creating a whole new asset class from a financial standpoint, where you're getting now countries involved at a country level, not just a city or a company. They're looking at it holistically from a sovereign standpoint to be able to have AI control it and whatever. If you look at what the United Emirates has signed off on in the last couple of months, it's crazy what they're doing, because they realize it's so invasive. It's just going to be everywhere in so many instances. They want to have it on a countrywide level. And so, I used to call myself a consultant. Now I just say I'm an analyst, because all you can do is analyze, because it's just constantly, you don't really know what to tell somebody to do, because it's constantly changing.
Mm-hmm.
So the only thing the closing comment for me is constantly stepping back and looking at a forest view to see what's going on, because there's just so much change.
Mark?
There's a tremendous amount of things that could be said about AI that are very positive. But for our own personal well-being, there are some steps that you can take to avoid some of the problems. You can, for example, if you set aside some time during the day to focus on one thing, or just time to think about things, which we tend not to do with this information flow coming at us so heavily. I mean, we're using Amazon Prime and we're skimming over our emails and everything else because we can't keep up, right?
And the software actually summarizes the emails, so you don't even have to read them. You can skim them.
Yeah, if you can trust it. Yes, absolutely. And the other thing we can do, I think, is utilize AI for tasks, but don't utilize it for anything that involves critical thinking. And I would argue that writing involves critical thinking, and that's one of the primary uses of it right now. You're going to lose your writing abilities and skills. There's already evidence in some of the studies of linguistic problems because of people that are utilizing ChatGPT. We don't want those skills to atrophy. At least I don't, and I don't suspect either of you gentlemen do either as well. So there are things to do to help yourself. Anything strong enough to help you is strong enough to hurt you.
Well, I think you start off with the key. We're getting dumber, and the AI bots are getting smarter. Okay, gentlemen, thank you. Mark, thanks. Peter,
Randy, thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Mark, good seeing you.